From the outside, or what we can call the exterior, Russia's approach looks very different compared to the early days of the war. Back in February 2022, the Kremlin showcased a dramatic full-scale invasion, with tanks rolling across multiple borders, paratroopers trying to capture Kyiv, and artillery strikes designed to shock Ukraine into quick submission. The exterior back then was built to impress, to scare, and to show overwhelming power. But it failed, because Ukraine resisted fiercely, and the West provided weapons and intelligence that stopped Russia's blitz. Now, the new exterior is calmer, slower, and more calculated. Instead of one giant push, Russia has fortified hundreds of kilometers of trenches and defensive lines, turning eastern Ukraine into one of the most militarized zones on Earth. This exterior image is no longer about quick victory, but about projecting endurance. When analysts look at satellite images, they see endless trenches, concrete dragons' teeth to stop tanks, minefields stretching for miles, and anti-air defenses scattered across the front. To outside observers, this looks like a fortress strategy, a clear signal that Russia is digging in for the long haul. But the interior of this strategy is even more important. Inside the Kremlin, the logic has shifted. Instead of betting on a short war, the Russian leadership now believes they can outlast Ukraine and its Western supporters. The interior reasoning is built on several pillars. First, Russia has far greater manpower than Ukraine. Even though their losses are high, the country has a much larger population pool to draw from. Second, the Russian economy, though under sanctions, has been restructured into a wartime economy. Factories are working overtime to produce shells, drones, and missiles. Third, Russia believes Western support for Ukraine will eventually fade, either due to political fatigue, economic pressures, or changing leadership in the United States and Europe. The short version of this interior story is clear: Russia thinks time is on its side. Every month that passes, Ukraine struggles to replenish ammunition, manpower, and energy. Every month, Western governments face pressure from their citizens to stop funding the war. And every month, Russia learns new ways to adapt to sanctions and to build replacement weapons. Now let's analyze the performance of this new strategy. On the battlefield, Russian performance has transformed compared to 2022. Instead of massive tank columns exposed to Ukrainian ambushes, Russia is focusing on artillery dominance. They are firing tens of thousands of shells daily, grinding down Ukrainian positions inch by inch. Drones have become central to performance. Shahed drones from Iran, repurposed as kamikaze weapons, are used every night to strike cities and power grids. Russian-made Lancet drones target Ukrainian artillery, air defense, and vehicles deep behind the front lines. Missile strikes have also become a key performance feature. Russia is regularly using cruise missiles, hypersonic Kinjal missiles, and even reactivated Soviet-era systems to bombard Ukrainian infrastructure. This is not just about destroying military targets, it's about making life harder for civilians, damaging morale, and forcing Ukraine to spend precious resources on air defense. Performance here is measured not in kilometers gained, but in pressure created. By making Ukraine constantly defend and rebuild, Russia keeps the momentum of exhaustion on its side. Of course, performance also has weaknesses. Russia has not achieved large territorial gains in many months, and Ukrainian forces continue to carry out precision strikes against depots, bridges, and even deep into Russian territory. But Russia's performance is steady, not spectacular, but relentless, designed to exhaust Ukraine over time. When we talk about safety features, it might sound unusual in a war context, but every strategy has built-in risk management. Russia learned harsh lessons from its early mistakes, advancing without proper logistics, underestimating resistance, and losing thousands of troops in chaotic retreats. The safety features of the new strategy are built to avoid those failures. Firstly, Russia has created multiple defensive belts, meaning even if Ukraine breaks through one line, there are more waiting behind. Secondly, troop rotations are more organized, ensuring units get rest before returning to the front. Thirdly, Russia is using electronic warfare systems extensively, jamming Ukrainian drones and communications, which adds another protective layer. On the political side, the Kremlin has designed safety features to manage domestic opinion. State-controlled media portrays the war as defensive, framing it as a fight against NATO rather than just Ukraine. This narrative keeps public support stable, reducing the risk of internal unrest. Another safety feature is the careful management of mobilization. Instead of calling for a massive draft all at once, Russia mobilizes in stages, avoiding the shock that could cause public backlash. Looking deeper, we find the unique selling points of this strategy. Unlike the blitzkrieg model, this strategy's uniqueness lies in its patience and adaptability. Russia knows it cannot quickly overpower Ukraine anymore, so it is selling the idea, both to itself and to the world, that it can win by simply not losing. Time becomes Russia's unique weapon. Every day Ukraine spends fighting, Russia believes it gets closer to its goal. Another unique selling point is the integration of allies. Iran's drone technology, North Korea's reported artillery supplies, and China's economic backing all strengthen Russia's position indirectly. This gives the strategy a multinational dimension, making it harder for the West to isolate Russia completely. Additionally, Russia has adapted in terms of electronic warfare. Ukrainian soldiers now report that GPS signals are jammed, Starlink connections disrupted, and drone operations interfered with. This is a unique selling point because it demonstrates that Russia is learning and evolving, turning early disadvantages into strengths. But what about the price of this strategy? Here, the costs are immense on both sides. For Russia, the financial cost is staggering. Billions are spent every month on ammunition, missile production, troop payments, and equipment. Sanctions have cut Russia off from many global markets, forcing the country to reorient its economy towards war production. The human price is also high. Estimates suggest that hundreds of thousands of Russian soldiers have been killed or wounded since 2022. Yet from the Kremlin's perspective, the price is acceptable if it means survival and eventual victory. Russia is gambling that Ukraine cannot afford the price of war as long as Russia can. On the Ukrainian side, the price is catastrophic. Entire cities are destroyed, millions displaced, and the economy is heavily reliant on Western aid. Infrastructure strikes mean blackouts in winter, fuel shortages, and constant reconstruction. Every day of war adds to the bill Ukraine must pay, both financially and in human suffering. Finally, let's bring it all together in a conclusion. Russia's new military strategy is not about quick victories or dramatic offensives. It is about attrition, endurance, and psychological warfare. It is designed to stretch the conflict until Ukraine is worn down, Western support weakens, and Russia can secure the territories it already occupies, and perhaps more. This strategy tells us something important. Russia has accepted that it cannot achieve lightning success, but it also believes it cannot be defeated easily. The Kremlin is betting on time, patience, and global fatigue. For Ukraine, this means the challenge ahead is not just to fight battles, but to sustain the willpower of its people and the commitment of its allies. The world is watching this new strategy unfold like a long game of chess. Each move is slower, but each piece is carefully placed. The outcome will not be decided in weeks or even months, but in years of endurance. And the ultimate question is simple: who will break first, Ukraine, Russia, or the international community's willingness to keep this war alive?